Our cover story tonight is from what is now becoming the most dangerous stretch of water in the world, the Yellow Sea. The semi-enclosed body of water is located between mainland China and the Korean Peninsula. If the wars of men and nations were not enough, even this region is becoming into a new theater of conflict. China wants absolute control of the Yellow Sea. It wants to deploy its contingents there, station its warships, control shipping routes, and dictate trade rules. It monitors all warships that pass through it. This is mostly because of Taiwan, a territory which China claims to own. Among China's defense or offense mechanism is also an underwater trap. This underwater trap is used to block submarines. Too bad that these tactics now seem to be backfiring. On the 21st of August, China got caught in its own trap. Look at this report now. At least 55 Chinese sailors are feared dead after their submarine got entangled in a trap which China had laid for its enemies. It has ended up ensnaring its own people. The report states that a Chinese PLA submarine struck a chain and anchor obstacle that was placed for Western vessels. The collision caused system failure. The submarine's oxygen ran out, its batteries depleted. The crew got poisoned. A total of 55 Chinese officials allegedly died. This includes 22 officers, 7 officer cadets, 9 petty officers and 17 sailors. And the cause of all their deaths is believed to be hypoxia. The source of this information is British intelligence. China naturally has denied the whole story. But there is credible evidence that this is precisely what happened. And if it did happen, then this is a huge embarrassment for China. A bitter reminder of how its muscle flexing can boomerang. For the last 6 years, China has tried to convert this region into its playground. It has bullied foreign fishing vessels, rammed into ships that it perceives to be a threat, and tried to alter the routes of any ships passing through, not just in the Yellow Sea, but also beyond. Take the South China Sea, for instance. It begins where the Yellow Sea ends. China has been bullying the Philippines here. Let me explain. 2 weeks back, it installed an underwater barrier to hinder the movement of Filipino vessels. This barrier was a floating cordon of sorts. It was placed near the Scarborough Shoal. The Philippines removed this barrier. It even released a video of its divers doing so. It seems this decision hasn't gone down too well with China. 24 hours back, a Filipino fishing boat collided with a foreign vessel. The collision led to the deaths of 3 fishermen and other 8 crew members who also suffered injuries. Guess where this accident happened? Near the Scarborough Shoal, the same area where Beijing laid its underwater barrier. Was this collision an act of revenge by Beijing? It certainly seems so. However, the identity of the vessel remains unknown. So the authorities are not naming China just yet. They're trying to investigate who owned it. But the thing is, China's track record speaks for itself. You see, it has a history of ramming its fishing vessels into smaller boats, a history of bullying boats that pass through its self-claimed regions on land and on sea. Let's talk about the Scarborough Shoal, a small but a strategic reef and fishing ground. It has been a major source of tension between Manila and Beijing. But what exactly is it? Well, the Scarborough Shoal is essentially a rock located atop an atoll or a ring-shaped island. It is a disputed territory claimed both by China and the Philippines. Every time a Filipino vessel passes through here, there's a fat chance that it gets rammed by a Chinese ship. This has been the status quo for several years now, but now China's trying to up the ante. It has increased its overtures and acts of foul play. And every time it is questioned about this, it blames the United States. Listen to this.
The South China Sea was in peace until the US came to disrupt it. The US provision of 2 outdated patrol boats to the Philippines, which are not of much practical use, exposes its actual role as a disruptor and saboteur of peace and stability in the South China Sea. We urge the US to stop meddling in the South China Sea issue and stop undermining peace and stability in the region.
You heard that. We urge the US to stop undermining stability in the region, says a country that has undermined peace and stability almost everywhere. You see, the Yellow Sea and the South China Sea are just two pieces of this puzzle. China's bullying tactics spread across the length and breadth of the Indo-Pacific region. Now, as I speak, China also has ongoing territorial or economic disputes with countries like South Korea, Japan, Vietnam, Indonesia, Singapore, Brunei, Laos, and Mongolia. If we speak of Japan, China's fighting it over the Senkaku Islands. They are located in the East China Sea. No one stays here. Japan calls these islands Senkaku. China's named them Diaoyu. If we speak of Indonesia, the fight there is over the Natuna Islands. China has been accused of using intimidating island patrol tactics. Also accused of fishing illegally in waters claimed by Indonesia. China also claims parts of Vietnam, especially the Paracel Islands. In 2020, the Chinese army sank a Vietnamese fishing vessel near the Paracel Islands. The tactic was the same. A Chinese vessel went and rammed the Vietnamese boat. Next, we have Brunei and Malaysia. These countries share the South China Sea, but China wants the sea all to itself. Beijing has developed military bases on islands and created artificial islands. Time and again, it also deploys maritime militia to bully the two nations. Where is China going to stop? How many more countries is it going to fight? How many more disputes is it going to ignite? It's perhaps time that all these countries come together to call out China's aggression. On this show, we will certainly continue to do so. WION World is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.